Welcome to the Puck Bunker episode 12. First and foremost, a very Merry Christmas to all you people out there. Thank you for tuning in. We got a little tired of visiting and eating and spending time with the family, so we decided to do a quick World Junior preview episode. So joined as always by my co-host Darren Boyce. Boyce, how was your Christmas?
It was great, and it's still going now. We're talking hockey here late at night.
I got you out of it for a little bit, though. You're welcome for that.
I'm excited. This is what I want to be doing on Christmas night, is talking hockey with my buddies. That's what I want to do.
More importantly than Christmas, it is World Juniors Eve, the greatest tradition in Canadian hockey, maybe other than the Stanley Cup, as far as I'm concerned. It's a time of year. It's my personal favorite hockey of the year. I don't think it gets much more exciting and energetic, and I'm super pumped to have this in my hometown of Ottawa. Going to be catching the first game tomorrow, Sweden and Slovakia at noon local time. If anyone's watching and is at the rink, come say hi. It's at TD Place at Lansdowne. It's going to be a great game. Boys, we're just going to jump right into this here. What are your thoughts on, do we want to go prospect first or team first? Let's go prospects first. Okay.
Sure.
There's some big name guys in this tournament who are vying for the positions really at the very top of the draft. We really have a handful of the top rated players. Matthew Schaefer and Porter Martone for Canada, both projected top 5 picks. James Hagan, same deal there. Logan Hensler could be the first right-handed defenseman off the board this year. And Victor Eklund, gotta love him. I'm so excited to watch this guy live. Victor Eklund from Sweden, who's looking to solidify a spot in the top 10 and maybe move into the top 5 if he really has a great tournament. So let's start at the top, because those are the names that most people want to hear about. What are you expecting, and what are your predictions leading into this?
I'm expecting Schaefer to play a lot and be very impressive to most people who maybe haven't, are totally versed with the top of the draft. I think after this tournament, they're going to be very excited with how good he is and him playing for Team Canada moving forward, even at the senior level. Even in the exhibition games, this guy's been noticeable. Yeah, you laugh, but he's been very noticeable. Again, there's older defensemen on this team, and he's the most he pops out at you.
And I'm not laughing. He's been noticeable to me, like from the very first time I ever saw him play. He was like a complete standout, and I think that depending how he plays, like this really could end the debate for first overall.
It could.
Or it could open it up if
he plays if he plays really poorly and say Hagens has a good tournament, it could definitely maybe switch things up a bit. But I just don't see him really playing that poorly.
I've never seen it.
No. It's possible. If they have a semifinal game or something against the US and he doesn't play great, I guess. But his body of work's pretty good. He's going to be a 17-year-old, and I assume is going to be playing pretty good minutes on the Canadian team. I say I assume because I do not know with this coaching staff at all what they're doing. So I will, we'll see what happens after the first game here. But he should be playing. He should be playing a lot, and he should be playing in all situations. He should be, on the power play, should be on the penalty kill, and probably out 5-on-5 pretty regularly.
I would say so, and I think that it's so nice to have the New Year's Eve game back. Canada USA. It's been a little bit since we've had that, which was at one point a pretty regular tradition. Canada USA New Year's Eve at the World Juniors, and I think that game, and let's assume that they may get a second chance to meet in this tournament, whether in the semifinals or potentially even in the finals. But for sure, they're going to play head-to-head once, and hopefully we get to see it twice. But I think those two games, head-to-head against the USA, are really going to – they could go a long way, because there's not really a more high-pressure environment for a draft-eligible player than the World Juniors, right? Canada, USA, it really does not get a bigger stage than that. Anybody who even gives half a fuck about junior hockey is watching that game and excited to watch it too. So I think that head-to-head is going to play a really huge role. Now, this is also mostly a 19-year-old tournament. The coaching staff here, they're not worried about their draft eligibles draft stock in this tournament. That said, the guys who are going to be in that game, they're going to get enough minutes on their own anyways. Like, they're good enough already that they're going to get their looks. So I think that could go a long way in sorting out those three guys anyways.
Well, I think Hagens has the most maybe gain out of those top three guys in this tournament. I think maybe, at least to me, I think if he has a good tournament, I think he can kind of solidify himself kind of in that top three, kind of regardless what happens the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm been a little bit down on him just from some of the things I've seen, some of the patterns I've seen. But I mean, that can just, again, if he has a good tournament amongst his peers or his peers a year or two older than him, I mean, that kind of settles a lot of, worries that a lot of people would have. Whereas I don't think, again, as I say that, I don't think Schaefer has maybe a ton to lose here. Gam, he's already won in a lot of people's books now. I don't see how he could play poorly enough to really move out of that. And even with Martone, like, I don't think Martone could, even if Martone has like an unreal tournament, I still don't think he could really move up as far as maybe Hagens could if he has a good tournament. Just, with the center play and the kind of the dynamic potential that he has.
No, and that's fair. But like, counterpoint to that, what if Martone, for all of his, let's call them perceived flaws with the pace and that sort of thing, if he does look really good on the top stage in junior hockey, maybe that gives you pause to think, like, okay, maybe we're worried a little too much. Like, if he dominates, like if he puts on some kind of dominant power forward performance, which I don't necessarily anticipate, because I don't know if he's going to get as many high-end offensive minutes as he's used to. But if he finds a way to wow you here and there, like, that might ease a lot of the concerns, I think, about his pace of play.
Well, they're going to need him to be a power forward in this tournament. I mean, they don't have much size, so he has to be that guy.
Well, they're going to win. They think they're going to win without size.
Well, but he has. I'm telling you, he has to be that guy if they're going to win the tournament. I mean, I don't think they're winning this tournament if he's playing poorly or he's not playing at all. I really don't think he has to play well. I mean, that might be putting a lot of pressure on him, but I think
I would say
quite important to what they're doing.
But is he even, like, he's not even firmly in their top six? So
listen, as I said with the coaching staff, I don't know what they're doing, but I mean, to me, he's going to have a dominant performance here at some point, or a dominant couple games, especially in, the later stages of this tournament, because they don't have guys that can actually go out there and physically dominate guys.
You really don't believe in the makeup of this team?
Well, I don't believe. No, I don't. I mean, they have like 8 or 9 of the same guy. Like,
Which
they
is
have the same
the
type of player.
Well,
which are guys I like. I really like them a lot, but it's just there's too many of them.
To me, they brought a couple too many lunch pail guys, and in the name of sacrificing skill. But like, they could have. I don't want to get into it again.
They could have to get into it again.
They could have brought skill.
He's one of their biggest players. He's probably the most physically dominant player that they have, and I think he's going to have to show that at some point. In which case, that would be really good for his draft stock if he has 1 or 2 of those performances, which I think he can do if he's put in a situation to do it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think for him, it's going to be about getting whether he can get the looks, on their offensive opportunities. But I agree with you. Hagens could now. I anticipate a big tournament from Hagens. They should be that line with Perreault and Leonard. That should be like the best line in the tournament.
I could see him having a lot of points, like especially when they play maybe the lower tier teams.
Well, and I don't give 2 shits about that. I need to see it against the bigger teams. I want to see it against.
That's what you want to see,
Canada.
right?
I want to see it against Canada and Finland to an extent, and Sweden for sure if they get a chance to play.
Yeah,
is where you're looking for it. But he's gonna torch the lower teams. Obviously, the points are gonna come. But I mean, if he can look dominant against the best teams, I think that not that he's out of the
No,
conversation.
I wouldn't even say dominant. I wouldn't even say
Back in the
dominant,
room
Rocco.
as
He just
well.
needs to be. He doesn't have to be dominant. He just has to be dangerous. Like you want to. He's a set. He's an underage player in this. He's an 06. Yeah. So like, again, he would be 18, but like
Oh, if
still.
you're going to be first overall, you do need to be dominant. I disagree.
Well, listen. If he's playing Team Canada, if he's dangerous every time he's on the ice, that's a really good sign to me.
Yes, but yeah, fair. But there has to be points where he can dominate, because if you can't dominate at points, why are you first overall? You're not.
Sure.
Schaefer will,
Again,
Schaefer will dominate shifts out there this tournament. I guarantee he will.
yeah, he will. But I would like to see that against the team, like Team USA. Like that would be much more impressive to me. Like
Yeah.
that's what we're saying with Hagens, right? Like if he does that against Canada and he's dangerous,
Well,
every
and
shift
that's coming back to our point where those head-to-head matchups are going to be massively important. One guy that I think could do himself a lot of favors probably in this tournament is Victor Eklund, getting over onto some North American ice. He's going to be exposed to a lot of eyeballs that haven't seen him. There's going to be a pile of North American scouts here for NHL teams who haven't had the chance to see him yet. And he could, I feel, with a good showing, he could absolutely cement his spot within the top 10. And he could push inside this top 5, I think, if he really stands out.
Yeah. Now again, we were speaking before, like the older tournament. Like I think Hagens is going to get the ice time to perform. I'm not sure if Eklund will get the same type of opportunity or not. I hope he does. But I mean, the way he plays, when people watch him play, he tries hard. He's, mucking in dirty areas. He's undersized, but it doesn't really let him, impact his play. He's very easy to cheer for as a player. He's very easy to like as a player. So,
Yes.
I mean, if you get the Canada bias, out of your head, or you're watching the game, they're not playing Canada, you watch this guy play, you're gonna really like what you see out of this guy. Yeah, and so I mean, again, I had him 6 on my list. I mean, he has the ability to be a dominant player in this tournament. Absolutely.
I think he's going to get a little more looks than he might usually on Team Sweden as a draft eligible. They don't have quite as much offensive firepower as they're used to, so I think that kind of opens up. I think there's a role for him here, and I think it could be. Don't be surprised if he is the player that garners the most new attention in this tournament.
I'd be really happy to see that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's going to be, if he's not a household name. Yeah, and I know he's a household name amongst people that really follow the draft, but he's not the pundits. Yeah, he's not a household name yet with the common fan, the same way that Schaefer and Martone and Hagens are. And I do feel, and like I had him 11th on our ranking, but like I said at the time, I felt it was very fluid between really 6 and 14 almost. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy. And Sweden's going to get to play either Canada or USA at some point, potentially both at some point. I want to see how he compares on the same ice as these other guys that we know are going to be in the top 5. And that's going to be a big measuring stick to me, whether, okay, are you legitimately in this conversation for top 5, which I think is open at this point, or are you more in the conversation for being top 10?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you see some offensive potential in this tournament with him, I mean, we've already seen it in pro, obviously, in Sweden, but I mean, again, if he puts up some numbers in this tournament, I think it'll move some eyeballs on, where this guy's going to be ranked. Or if he has, again, say he plays a Team Canada, scores a couple greasy goals, or gets, a greasy goal and a couple of assists. Like, I mean, that'll totally change his draft position. But I mean, I have no doubt that he's going to come into this tournament, and when he does get ice time, he's going to play well. He's going to do good things out there constantly. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, and he will be a complete nuisance to play against.
Yeah,
And there's
he works
yeah,
too hard not to play. He
yeah.
works too hard not to show well.
And it'll be interesting too, how some of maybe these other teams, maybe bigger defensemen or some of these other, maybe more higher regarded players deal with him. Because he's not going to stop coming at them, and that's
No.
no. So he might be I mean, he could be a fan favorite or at least a scout favorite after this tournament for sure.
Yeah, I don't see any world in which he doesn't raise his draft stock at this tournament. He'd have to it would have to be a really quiet showing for him, because the energy and fire and motor and competitiveness that he has, those things are going to translate, and they'll translate to any situation. Especially, like, I'm really looking forward to seeing him on smaller ice, because he plays a game that would really suit the small ice, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, even if he doesn't, get a lot of opportunity, I don't really see his stock falling a lot. Just, I don't.
No,
The difference is with Hagens, like if Hagens doesn't play a lot, which I don't think is going to happen, or if
oh,
he
he's the
has,
number one. He's going to be on the
yeah,
number
like again,
one.
or he has like a really poor tournament, like I could see some disparity in where he's going to go. Maybe I think there's just more disparity in like him having a good tournament where he would be ranked versus if he doesn't have a good tournament where he would be ranked. That's all.
No, that's fair, and I do think there is some. I think there is some divisiveness amongst the scouting community on their opinions.
Is there starting to be? And I mean, I'm part of that. I mean,
Yeah,
you see you see the ability, but you see some kind of glaring issues that you're worried about too, and you're just wondering if those are, maybe part of, he's trying too hard in college, or if, he's just playing some older guys, or it's just, maybe those are just the games he caught of him. I mean, I've watched him 4 or 5 times. I mean, I've kind of seen the same thing, but maybe there's, again, we'll see here against his, his peers, or peers plus a year older than him, and see how he looks there. He's gonna have the same line mates that he has in college too, so I mean that should bode well for them.
well, that's what I mean. They should be the most statistically dominant line in the tournament. Now we'll see if that's good enough to take him to gold or not, but that line should be one that you don't have to worry about.
They're the
But
defending champions, so
that's yeah, unfortunately, they are. Um, Aside from the top guys, there's a handful of other fairly interesting prospects who could go anywhere really from the late first to the mid rounds of the draft. And I haven't really looked at these guys too much on video yet. I'm familiar with them, but I not enough to give a full deep dive. But uh, boys had a chance to look at a few of these guys, and there's some names that we think are worth paying attention to at this tournament if you're interested in the later rounds of the draft or the mid round. So, boys, why don't you go through a couple of these guys and give a quick elevator pitch on who these players are, and who fans can look out to seeing aside from the top names in the draft class.
all right. So I got a couple guys I recently viewed just to kind of get ready for the tournament.
Since you're not coming to Ottawa to watch it with me.
Yeah, so I mean I'm watching on video. So I mean again, and that'll be interesting too, how I'm going to see the guy on video, then you might see him in person, and we'll see how if we see kind of similar things or maybe a few different things. It will be interesting to see that. So one guy that actually interests me, I watched today a couple times, or a couple of his more recent games. Anyways, Jan Chauvin. So he plays for Slovakia, and he's a pretty big forward. I mean, I believe he plays center in the under 20 league in Slovakia. He wasn't really playing center in the exhibition games for Slovakia. Now he's not maybe a massive offensive talent, I would say, at least at this point. He's fairly young, for the draft class, but he has some ability that could be of NHL interest. I mean, he's a big body. He's not, he's not a terrible skater. He's got some decent speed for his size. He forechecks hard. He works hard, and he's a pretty good defensive player. So, I mean, be interested to see where he will play for Slovakia. He might be a bit lower in the lineup for them, but again, it's from what I've seen, I mean, he does some good things on the ice. Now, I don't know what his offensive ability is. It doesn't seem like he's, at this point yet, that it's, maybe a high end ability there. But I mean, when you have a decent sized body, 6'2", 6'3", who's, willing to forecheck hard and, causes some turnovers out there. I mean, there's some potential for an NHL team to think he's maybe a fourth line player, someone who can maybe, at least flip into their lineup, maybe between the AHL and the NHL. I mean, and if you're drafting a guy like that, third round, even something like that, or even if he improves, you think his offense is a little higher than the second round. I mean, you get a guy who plays some games for you. That's not, it's not a bad thing. If you get guys that play 100, 200 games for you, I mean, that fills out your organization. So I do think this guy might have maybe some potential to be of interest to a team and have some NHL ability. But it'll be interesting to see what, again, I think you're going to go watch Slovakia. So I'd be, kind of interested in what you.
Well, yeah,
him.
I'm going to see them tomorrow. So it's Slovakia and Sweden is the first game of the tournament. So the eyes will be on Eklund a lot, but in addition to the player you just mentioned, Slovakia's got a couple other guys who might be pretty interesting to watch as well, if you want to touch on them.
Yeah, so they have Luka Radovojevic, who now I will.
This is an interesting player.
Yeah, so I think he's a very good player. So as of right now, he's playing, I believe. I think he's playing in Sweden actually at the moment, but I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, the last games I've watched, his exhibition games here for Slovakia. A very good skater. Great edges. He's pretty quick. I mean, you see him out there and it looks high end. I mean, it changes directions, very confident in it. Very patient player out there, good passer, has some, good offensive ability, nice power play movement. Don't think he's a bad defender either. I mean, his decision making is pretty good. He's a good positional defender. I mean, he works pretty hard out there. There's just one glaring flaw is that he is very small.
How small?
He looks about 5'9".
Yeah,
I don't think he's listed as that, but he looks small. And so you do see him on some of the draft pundit boards. He has some discrepancy as well. We've talked about with smaller players. He's a guy when you see on the highlight, the highlight film actually, and even when you watch him on video, he looks like a very good player. He looks good for this age group. So, I mean, even if he is good in this tournament and he has a good tournament, I mean, I'm still going to have some skepticism on what that looks like, at the NHL level, just because I'm really worried about, about that part of his game. But he's an interesting player to watch because he has good ability and he's a good skater and he does a lot of things pretty well.
He's a highly skilled player, and I've seen him a little bit. The skill's never not the question. It's always with a player who's 5'9", 5'10", especially as a defenseman, is a skill good enough to make up for the things that can't be fixed, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested, and tomorrow's going to be a great measuring stick because Sweden's the top team in this group. So for game one, you're going to get a massive measuring stick, and I'm interested to see whether he can handle their better forwards. I don't think the puck movement part of his game is going to be the question. It's going to be, I think scouts are going to be looking for how does he fare against the better players.
So I'll say this: he's actually moved to the USHL lately, and he's played decently well there. It looks like, just glancing over his statistics there. I mean, I just watched the 2 exhibition games he played, but I mean, yeah, you're gonna wonder how he is under pressure, how he is under a forecheck, how he does, battling bigger teams down low. Though again, Canada decided not to go with big guys, so maybe that we won't see that as much. I mean, they could have could have used some size here to dominate some of these teams a little bit more, but I digress. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I mean, even in the exhibition game, the one game I watched, he was playing. They're playing Finland. I mean, that's a pretty good opponent, and they lost 6-0. But I watched the game and I watched his the way he's playing, and he looks like that he's controlling play. I mean, Finland's not really getting by him. Like he's doing some good things out there, and his defense kind of held up against them. Now, again, they're not the top end of this tournament, I don't think, but I mean, they're still a
good team.
Medal contender. Like they're a good team. And again, it was an exhibition game, so that might again change some of the things. Maybe some effort level or which guys are playing. But I mean, again, I can see again if there's so if he has a good tournament or Slovakia maybe surprises and he's playing a decent amount for them and putting up points. Again, he's going to have some discrepancy on the board to begin with, but there might be a little bit more, higher end on him than maybe we're seeing right now. Because I have seen him on some people's lists, maybe, pretty early in the second round. I mean, not everybody. I mean, but I have seen him, his name at least mentioned in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that's been the thing. I think he came into the year with a little bit of steam behind his name. I think he had a decent underage season, but again, I think this is a guy he might be the kind of guy where no matter how well he plays, certain people will not be convinced, and no matter how small he is, some people won't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be my issue. Like, I'm gonna have trouble getting by the size. Like, I will not have him as high as other people just because of that. But I will counter myself on that. I do see what some people are interested in. I can identify what interests them.
Well, I'm going to have a pretty much better idea this time tomorrow than I do right now. I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow afternoon. Thomas Polgazal. I probably did not say that right. I'm sorry, but
so again, he's not the biggest guy. However, he's playing, in the Slovakian Pro League, and he's playing quite well. And I mean, you watch his, again, we watch his, again, I watched a pro game and kind of an exhibition game here. I liked a lot of what he brought. He was a good playmaker. I mean, he made good simple passes. He could play the cycle actually really well, especially for maybe not the biggest guy. I mean, he's not, as small as Radovojevic, but he's a smaller guy. I mean, his offensive game was pretty good. He was good at presenting himself too for shooting opportunities. I really liked that part of his game. I mean, he was a good defensive player. He worked hard. Thought his skating was decent enough. I mean, this is a pretty good player all around, I think. Physically, I'm not going to say he was out there hitting guys a lot, but he grinds and works hard, uses his body. He actually uses his body pretty well to win pucks, even though he's, again, not a huge guy. He's really good at, leveraging, I guess maybe his strength, to get pucks, which again is kind of impressive for a smaller guy. So I actually liked him as a prospect. And I think, again, if we're talking about these guys that are kind of outside the top 5 or top 10 here, to me, this Pablo could be a guy that we maybe see. He could jump in maybe to the late first round, especially if it's a really good offensive tournament. Now he's older, I believe, for this class as well. So that's noteworthy. But again, I think he's probably going to have
half of the top end of this class is.
It is, but he's not in the top end. Like, I mean, this is probably I would say guy's probably a second round pick for the most part. I don't, maybe
good player,
maybe early third. I mean, just in general, like I think just, I don't think that this guy would fall that much further than that.
No, at this point in the year, late first to early third is not as big of a range as people think.
No, like, I mean, again, this guy has a lot of good qualities that a team would look for, especially maybe for a lower lineup player. Now, again, he's smaller, but it does look like his again, he does things that for a smaller guy that I like. I mean, he's good defensively. He kind of digs. He battles. I mean, he's not good. Again, he's not really hitting guys. He's not going to, physically impose guys. But I mean, he's going to work. He's going to, be annoying to play against. And I mean, he has some offensive ability. So I mean, that could check out as a guy that teams are interested in. And again, this is, I think he's going to play a bunch in this tournament.
Yeah.
So this is a guy again who, they upset somebody or, they get on a little bit of a run here. This is a guy that you might see more named more often, maybe in those, top 32 type, formats.
Or yeah, at least so. Couple good names there on Slovakia. You want to talk about the goalie?
Pradell? Well, I don't think
it depends how much he plays. I
don't think he's going to play much, but I mean, he was really good. We saw him at the Holinka, and I mean,
his numbers weren't great, but he had very good stretches.
His numbers weren't great, but I mean, one of the games he was playing Canada, he had like 50 shots.
Yes, he had some very good stretches in that tournament.
Yeah. I mean, he was really good in that tournament. I mean, he's a big body, he moves pretty well. He's very poised in the net. I mean,
I like
the puck a bit. I mean, but
this is gonna sound like a lazy scout on him, but like you look at him and he looks like a goalie, if that makes any sense.
Well, I looked at a game. He's playing for the under-18 Slovakian team, and they play some of the pro teams in Slovakia. And I mean, I think they're playing a Division 1, like the second division Slovakian team, but they won one of the games that he was playing. They're playing a pro team in that division. They won as an under-18 team, and he made like 40 plus saves. And I mean, the goals on him are pro goals. I mean, they are. I mean, he's not. He looks good. I mean, he tracks the puck well. I mean, the body that you're looking for.
That's what I noticed about him is that he didn't let in the stinkers. He didn't let in the weak goals or the backbreakers. And if you're not letting in a lot of weak goals and you're 6'5" and you've got some athleticism and some poise, like that's something to work with.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to be really playing in this tournament just because he's.
I hope
they're young guy they bring to play in the the next couple
and that's what I was thinking as well. We might not see him much, if at all, but I hope we get to see him.
But I will talk about him in our goalie episode because he's a guy I've been tracking since that tournament, and I do like.
Yes, I know.
Well, if he kept going, I mean, since that tournament, I mean, I watched him kind of, once a month, and he's looked. Like looks good. He looks good, and he checks out against pro guys. Like he looks good against pro guys.
I'm the first to admit I'm no goalie guru, but for my eyes, he looked quite good in the games that I've seen him as well, especially at the Holinka there against Canada. Couple other guys you wanted to mention here. We're going to get away. We're finally done with Slovakia. There's going to be an interesting team to watch. I think I'm going to get to see them 2 or 3 times anyways. So. Looking forward to that, but a couple other guys on some of the other teams, boys. Who you got?
Yeah, so Wojtek Sahar will be playing for Czechia, and he plays in. So again, he plays in their pro league as well, in the Czech Republic. Now, to me, he's kind of the classic kind of young guy who's playing pro. He's not exactly thriving, but he's surviving. Nothing really stuck out to me in terms of what his elite skills were. Just kind of everything all around was pretty solid. Like a decent skater, decent shot, decent puck skills. I mean, his offense, he was more kind of going to the net, maybe more of a net front presence. Plays the bumper on the power play. So, I mean, he's not maybe total decision maker, but I mean, he's in the middle of the ice. They do kind of trust him out there, which is kind of noteworthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there wasn't, he was a pretty decent defensive player. I thought he was decently strong. He engaged in battles. I mean, he skates pretty hard on the forecheck. He just isn't really a physical player. I think that was kind of the detriment I saw with him. He wasn't kind of, throwing his weight around or, but again, he's a very young player. He's 17 years old playing pro. So, I mean, I don't know what my expectation should be.
Is good.
It is good, but I don't know what my expectation should be. He's hard to gauge because again, his clips are mostly pro games, so it's a little difficult to gauge what he actually is. So again, this tournament would be kind of important to him if he can get some opportunity to play.
Could he actually play against his peers?
Yeah, but even now he wouldn't be playing against his peers. He's still playing against guys 2 years older than him.
No, but it's
So
better.
he might be a guy that the under 18s really maybe help him, because he would get an opportunity to play in that tournament, which would be pretty helpful to him. But I mean, you hope he gets some ice time in this tournament, because I mean, he's obviously got some good traits. I mean, the professional teams want him to be on their team. He's on their power play. I mean, they put him in some pretty good situations. So, I mean, we'll see. But that's another guy I'm interested in kind of watching this tournament and see if A, he kind of gets an opportunity to play, and B, maybe what more the offensive upside maybe is with him.
And
It's a little harder to see at pro.
Well, exactly, because you're playing against men. He might actually get a lot more opportunity to make a bit of an impact here at this tournament. And like you said, he's still playing against guys 1 and 2 years older, but at least it's only 1 and 2 years. So he's should get some more opportunity than the pro leagues for sure. There's one more guy on check. He's not available until next year's draft, but just a guy I wanted to mention very quickly is Adam Novotny. I thought he was someone who stood out to me at the Hlinka tournament. I thought he was one of Czechia's better players there. And I think this is someone that might that is definitely worth watching if you tune into any of the Czech games, because he could be a pretty household name by this time next year for next year's draft.
We might be a household name after this tournament because of,
well, yeah, that's it. And but boys, there was another guy on out of Germany that
I got the last 2 guys I kind of reviewed here, the two German players. So we have Carlos Handel, and he's been playing for Halifax actually in the Q, and so he's going to be playing for Germany. So he's a right shot defenseman, decent. So again, to me, I'll just start this. To me, this guy is a prospect. I think there would be some interest from teams in this guy. I think he has some physical traits that people will be interested in. It would just be having to develop the player. So again, he's a decent sized right-hand shot defenseman. So I believe he's about 6'1"-ish, right-hand defenseman. So I mean, he's not big, but he's not small. He's right-handed and he can skate fairly well. So I mean, right there, this is definitely a interesting prospect, especially you get a couple rounds into the draft where you're like, okay, what elite skills maybe do these guys have, or what can we see that maybe translate to the NHL level? I do think the skating would probably translate to the NHL level for him. Now, he does, again, I think he works pretty hard. I mean, he does have some ability to manipulate space as well. I mean, he can pull some dangles off on guys, which again, as a defenseman who's 17, is quite good to see. Now, he has a lot of work to do, though, on some other parts of his game. I mean, defensively, he overcommits a lot. He's not the best rush defender. I mean, he's okay. I feel like he gets caught kind of off balance a lot of times, kind of his defensive zone decisions. He's kind of just caught in between. So that needs to develop a bit more. I mean, offensively, I don't know exactly how much is there either. I mean, you have the skating, so that's a good base. But again, maybe if you, thinking of a previous prospect here like Logan Hensler, maybe he doesn't utilize that skating enough just, to create the offense that you're looking for. I mean, he's kind of conservative. He, once he's, around the offensive zone, it's a little scrambly under pressure too. Like when he's, has a hard forecheck on him, he does end up getting a little more scrambled than, if there's no one directly in front of him. He's much better when there's no pressure on him. So again, now he's going to be in tough because I think, again, they're Germany.
I like how much more confident you are with the scouting report because he's coming out of the CHL.
I am.
Of course.
Well, I am. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I mean, it's tough. Listen.
Oh, it's way.
Doing this, I do think it's a lot tougher to read. It's a
Yeah.
lot tougher to read a 17-year-old or 18-year-old playing in a pro league,
Yes.
where they're not playing in a, maybe a prime offensive situation, or they're
Well,
playing guys.
especially too, like let's not kid everybody. We're not spending a ton of time here watching the Czech Extra Liga.
No, no, exactly. And so, I mean, but again, it is noteworthy when a
Yeah,
player is playing pro as a 17-year-old. I mean, that right there is it's a good starting point, right?
it's big time.
Yeah. Now again, so speaking of Handel, like I could see people liking him, or at least being interested in him, a couple rounds into the draft. I think just the skating, the handedness, and maybe again, he's not small. I mean, he's not huge, but he's not small. So I think there's could be, maybe it could be some interest in him. Now, I don't think Germany's really gonna have that good of a tournament. I mean, they just got pounded 11-1 the other day, an exhibition play.
No, they're not going to pick up too many wins here, I don't think.
No, no. Uh, but I mean, this might be a guy that a team thinks that it can develop, and just leaves him in the queue, gives him a few years to develop after that, and you might have a player after that. But there is a skill here, or a couple skills anyway, that are fairly high end. And again, we're not talking about a 5'9" guy. This is a 6'1", 6'1" guy, so it's a little bit different.
And they got one other player out of the CHL here on their team as well.
Yeah. So David Lewandowski. So he plays for Saskatoon. Now, again, he's about 6'1", 6'2"-ish, I think around that area. So again, another 2007 birthday. I'm not sure what to, maybe think about him. He looked kind of average, I would say. His skating wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. There's some good offensive creativity there. He had some ability, kind of get it, work a cycle, make some high end offensive passes in the offensive zone. They just don't, there's too many occasions where he kind of just turned over the puck, or the play dies because he overheld the puck. He just didn't really make the right offensive decision a lot of the time. Now, again, I don't know if that's because, again, the games I watch, he's playing for Germany, whether his teammates are just not in a spot for him, or, if maybe he's, maybe that's a common theme with him. So we'd have to watch him a bit more just to see if that, maybe translates a bit more. But yeah, I mean, he's an active forechecker. I don't think his physical game was anything, to write home about, but I mean, he would use his body and engage in board battles. I mean, he wasn't, I wouldn't call him soft, that's for sure. I mean, he was definitely engaged in the game, especially for a game they were losing. They ended up losing 11-1. So
not too many soft Germans out there.
No, no. So, I mean, he's a guy we'll have to watch maybe again if we're looking a bit more further down in the draft. If we're looking for maybe some sleepers, we'll take a look at
Yeah,
him.
well, yeah, he's rated as a watch by Central
Yeah.
Scouting, so that means like maybe draft, maybe not, borderline draft. So
There wasn't a skill that really stuck out that
and that's
we were like,
and that's the thing. There was for the first time in 24 years, we're gonna have a 15-year-old at this tournament, playing for Switzerland. And I have Jonah Neuenschwander, and I haven't seen him play even once, but I caught news of when their roster came out. I noticed his birth year. He's really young. I'm gonna go see them just to see what this kid's about.
So what's interesting is that he's 6'3", and he's like actually 180 plus pounds. Like he's 15 and he's that size.
What is going on in the milk in Switzerland? Oh my goodness.
And he's been playing pro this year. And I mean, just looking off the cuff here, I mean, he only has 1 point, but it doesn't look like he's playing a regular shift, it looks like. So
Yeah, he's played 5 games in a men's league at 15. I don't give a shit about his points.
and then held his own.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, we'll see what he looks like in this tournament too. He's going to get some, he might get some opportunity here, against against some of these big boys to see what he looks like.
I don't. Yeah, and I don't expect anything. The fact that he's at the tournament at all is wildly impressive. So good on him, because like I said, first 15-year-old in 24 years to play at the World Juniors. That covers really the majority here of the draft eligible players that we're going to see. We didn't talk about Hensler, but I mean, 2-2 in depth, but he's another guy for Team USA. He's a surefire first rounder, and
I just wonder if he's going to play a lot for them. Like that's
Well, and that's what I'm thinking here, but he's going to play a regular shift. I'm interested to see how he handles some of the better forwards, because I've had some mixed opinions on him. Some games I've really liked him, and other games I've been quite concerned with some things that I've seen. So that's a guy that I'm paying attention to. But aside from that, that's basically the guys that you're going to want to pay attention to for at least for draft eligible purposes. Now let's get into some predictions, boys. Who are your medalists here? Give me your gold, silver, and bronze medalist.
You want the curmudgeon answer to that?
I want what you think.
The United States will win gold. Sorry.
Like, over who?
Over Canada. I'll give them to the gold medal game.
So, wow, generous of you. I'm surprised you're going there, given how much flack you've been given their entire coaching and schedule.
Well, I have to ride it out now. Like,
I guess you can't. I guess you can't rip the team apart for a month straight and then pick them.
I'm not ripping the. Sorry, let me rephrase. I'm not ripping the team apart. I just don't know what their management decisions were.
It's not the players you have a problem with, just the players that were chosen.
Yeah.
I know. You. It's hard. We got so many good players. We're lucky. We could put 3 teams in here who could compete for a medal, or at least 2. So it's a nice problem to have. Every player on that team.
So I'm just going to say the reason I think that they're not going to win, I just think it's going to come back to bite them that they don't have enough offensive talent on their team.
And that's what I worry about too. Do they have the guns to keep up? Because they've built a team that has you guys slot into their roles properly, sort of thing. But it came at the expense of having 3 lines who could be a first line, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the problem that we're having is that they picked 2 scoring lines and 2 true bottom 6 lines, where they may have been better served with 3 high-end scoring lines and a true grind line. But we'll see. That's why they play, right? That's why they play. We're not picking the team. We're just here talking about it. Obviously, I'm cheering for Canada. I have some similar thoughts to Boyce, but the tournament's in Ottawa. It's at home. The guys are hungry after not a good showing last year, and Canada's coming up on top. USA is going to take the silver, and I'm going to give the bronze medal to Sweden. Who do you got for the bronze?
Screw it. Let's just give it to Finland.
Finland. All right. So Finland. All right. So we got 2 rivalry games in the medal days. We got Canada and USA and Sweden, Finland.
My question is who's the leading scorer of this tournament going to be?
I'm going to say that Slovakia plays for a medal against Sweden. Is what I'll put my prediction there. There's going to be Slovakia will be in the top 4 with Sweden.
All right.
Finland.
Yeah. Who do you think the leading scorer is going to be?
The leading score, goals or points?
Points.
I'm going to go with Ryan Leonard. What do you think?
You had the right idea. I like that. I wonder. I guess I will go Gavin McKenna.
Leading scorer of the tournament.
Yeah, I'm going to call that one.
I take Canada to win and pick an American top scorer, and you take USA to win and pick a Canadian top scorer. I'll tell you what, if
to make it in the final, he's going to have to score a bunch. So,
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I hope you're wrong, because I'm not happy when USA beats Canada at all. No one likes that. Even Americans don't like. Yeah, they like it, but
American hockey people like it.
Yeah, I know. It's just our thing, man. It's like the one thing that we have over them. So I don't like when we don't have it anymore. They're better than us at every other sport.
Yeah.
really, like not really, other than curling and lacrosse, which is hilarious, but we're better at that. But otherwise, all we have is hockey. So I hope we get to keep it, especially at home, man. They can't win at home. They can't win in Ottawa. It just, I don't know.
They've won in Canada before.
Yes, I know they can. I'm saying that can't happen. Can't happen. I don't want it. I don't want it to. Hopefully, gonna find a way to find some tickets to the gold medal game. I'm going to both semifinal games though, which is great. Shout out to our producer who got me those for a Christmas present. So that's pretty fun.
Maybe before we go, there's one other guy we should talk about. We didn't mention him, was Jack Ivankovic. Like he made the team.
Yeah, is he gonna play a game though?
Who's starting?
Carter George.
Is he starting? Like, do we know that?
No, but that's who I would have in nets.
Yeah, I think I would too. He's looked pretty good.
He's a big game goalie, man. I've seen it before. He's a big game goalie, and I think in a short tournament, a guy who's got a clutch gene.
He's looked good. He's looked good in the OHL this year. I mean, he's been in London, a couple times, or played London. Looked great.
Really good goalie.
Yeah, but I mean, he's good when he gets a lot of shots. I know that.
Yeah, well, we picked a team with 2 true bottom 6 lines, so the shots might come.
We'll see.
We'll pretty good movers.
Anyway, we're excited for this tournament to get started. We're excited to watch these guys play, and I'm excited to see some of these, draft eligible guys we're looking at. And,
yeah, me too. And I think boys, and I'm just going to mention this idea that we're going to get on some. We'll do some quick episodes here, some recaps when I go see some games in person, and talk about what these guys look like in person, because it's good to get to know them, and we're going to get a chance to follow them on video, and we've seen a lot of them on video, but in person does bring a bit of a different element. So I'm really excited, especially for tomorrow. Sweden and Slovakia is going to have half of the, you got 1, 2, 3, at least 4, maybe 5, depending who plays in nets. Exciting draft eligibles to watch tomorrow. World Juniors is the best, man. It's the best. It's the fucking best. It's the best hockey of the year. The kids are so into it. They're so excited. Every goal, they're jumping out of their pants, celebrating at center ice. Like, it's just, this tournament is what hockey is supposed to be about, and I can't wait.
Well, I mean, it's going to be exciting, and yeah, I mean, you're going to have good crowds at these games too, so everyone will be, pretty lively. All these players will be pretty, jacked up to play.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And like I mentioned before, if anyone does follow this program and sees me at the games, come say hi, come have a chat. I love talking hockey with absolutely anybody. So I think we're good to leave it at that right now. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So boys, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and to everyone watching, Merry Christmas to you guys. And I can't wait for tomorrow. It's World Juniors Eve, guys. I'm excited.
Merry Christmas, Rocco.
All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night, guys.
See you guys later.